Alrighty, week 14. Is that crazy? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So, really, right? If you're in week 14, there's 4 weeks left. If you count this, it's five. But really, it's week 18 is we're done. So, I say this to say it's going to quickly come to an end. And man, have we covered a lot of content, and we have some fun content, in my humble opinion, to finish up. But before we get there, I want to talk about a couple of topics and then we'll get into the work you're going to do. Because this week made me rethink the rest of the course. I had done this before, but I had to do it again, mostly because of really working on the part that we're going to finish up with, which is learning how to write asynchronous code. Now, we've actually already written asynchronous code, but in this case, more of your traditional asynchronous code is what we're going to learn to write now. But before I get there, I want to talk just a moment about this code challenges versus the AI checkpoints. This to give you a little additional way to help us navigate this new way of doing a checkpoint code challenge. So one of the things that happens when I give you a code challenge is making sure, sometimes maybe you didn't understand it until you watch the solution. So what happens here is if you didn't understand the solution, then me grading it, because I really only have very little to grade you on, makes it harder for me to grade it or to grade you or to assess that. Because remember, one of the things, the most important thing I said I do is I grade you on the attempt, the effort you put in. So one of the things you can do to help yourself is actually to include comments about what you tried. Because in a code challenge, that can be part of the way I would not maybe give you all the points. I still want to see an attempt, but doing comments helps me see the effort you put into thinking through that process. Okay. And having switched so quickly to code challenges from checkpoints, I didn't talk about that piece and it hit me and what's great about everyone, and specifically a couple of you who know, we've had these ongoing discussions in the grade about this. One student didn't quite understand the challenge until they saw the solution. One student had done some code but gotten rid of it, and the code they showed me I knew didn't work, because part of what you want to do is, if you're trying a challenge, make sure the code doesn't have an error. Right? I mean, because when I do code alongs, that's definitely part of it. But in a code challenge, of course, that's also. And even if you feel like you got the right answer, still code my solution so that you have a commit that shows me that. Okay? So, anyway, just to understand and to give a little more context so that you can get, or so that I can assess you and you feel like your attempt is seen, which is important. Okay, so for now, we're going to move from form validation, although I really almost spent another week on it because it's an important topic. I know for me that, I fill out so many online forms. I often see where developers don't do a good job, and having an understanding of why form validation is important, because it is just the way we exchange everything on the web. But one of the things I probably wanted, not probably, I wanted to add was actually, remember that scroll, that Windows Scroll 2, where when you hit the edit, it goes to the top? We could have modified and created a function that actually determined location dynamically. That would have been a really good thing for a UI perspective, right? From a user interface perspective to actually do. But I was like, okay, I got to move on to the API stuff. But I just want you to know for now. Now, decision apps going forward, one of the things by reviewing, because I actually now have had to spend the time to go through and code up what we're going to end up finishing with the rest of the content for this semester, made me really have to rethink the decision apps, because I actually had several more scheduled for us, but I ended up taking those out. And what this does in this sense is, instead of, I think, 8, we're going to end up with 6, which means those actually individually would have a bigger weight on your overall score, and you'll possibly see a change as I change the rolling forward content as far as what the assignments are. So I just want you to know that's changing. So if I was to come over here and look forward, like in week 15 there was supposed to be a decision app, there won't be. Actually in this week 14 there was supposed to be one, okay, and then I had one here. But what I realize is that what we're about to do, and I'm going to show you right now what we're going to end up building, actually is going to take the whole time and doesn't lend itself well to the decision app. Because here's the deal, and what we're going to end up doing is we're going to get the user location. Location in this case is latitude and longitude of the user, and we take that, we actually use an asynchronous process to actually acquire that lat and long. We used a built-in browser, what we call navigator, to get your location, and then actually send that information over to, in this case, the open weather, and you'll talk about that in a minute, the open weather API, in order for it to tell us what is the air quality index. Okay, so this week, after you finish the learning more about this, we'll start on this. But my point here is that this changes that decision making, because it just, not everyone would build it out. I'm not giving you an example that is relatively easy to implement. So I leaned on having you walk away with more asynchronous than doing decision code. That's how I landed on it. Now, having said that, you're going to actually need an API key. Okay. Now, let me just show you first, before I talk about this, what this looks like. Okay. So this actually is what, when we're finished, what it's going to look like. And when you open the site, the URL, you actually, then it dynamically goes and gets your lat and long, gives you the time, and actually gives you a real-time AQI, which is the air quality index, AQI, for your specific location. So that's great. So that process is really great, and we're going to end up using this site, which is open weather. Okay, so what you'll need to do, and this is what I was talking about in attendance, is actually sign up for free and get a API key. It'll actually be emailed to you in this week's work. We'll end up using it here, so having already signed up and have it will be just helpful. That way you're not trying to do it on the same day in case you run into anything. But I've signed up myself, and what I did here is I went to the API, and then I started looking around. I'm like, cost? Wait a minute, no. And I kept scrolling down. I'm like, okay, these, okay, and I can't, and then, I got here. I was like, okay, yeah, here are the ones, the air pollution API. So this website provides a huge amount of APIs, which is great. And I kept scrolling down, and then I realized, actually I needed to hit subscribe. Okay, and when you subscribe, then this is when it started talking about pricing, and I'm like, no, this stuff is free. So you keep scrolling down. This is what happens. This is how people make money. I don't fault them for that. You just have to understand, scroll on down until you end up seeing. So if you're an enterprise, this is going to cost you, but free access. Okay, so go to on the price URL, go all the way to the bottom, and then get the API key here. Okay, and this gives us the air pollution API. Again, all you'll get here, not all you'll get, once you sign, you actually have to sign up, give them an email, but no credit card, because you're signing up for the free one. They'll email you. That's what happened for me, is they just emailed me an API key. And I will show you, probably in 14.2, I'm actually preparing for that right now, how to hide that API key from GitHub, because it's important. Even though we're behind private repos, it's still important. Okay, so that's where we're heading. But to get us there, we need to talk more about asynchronous, okay? And in this case, we're going to end up watching for attendance first is something from one of my favorite YouTubers. His channel name is Color Code. And here's what you're going to end up doing, okay? And again, I say this here. It's kind of a review of the code we've written, but just bringing it back into our awareness of what is synchronous versus asynchronous, okay? Because we've been writing mostly our synchronous code. Boom, 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 runs right after the other. But we have actually, and I've talked about this when we've done it, talked about that we've written asynchronous code, but now this is the focus of what we're going to be writing, because writing modern JavaScript means you've got to write asynchronous code. All right, so to start, you'll take your week 13, create a week 14, and then commit it, okay? And now here's the video. And so in week 14, you'll end up creating a new file called colorcode.js, okay? And that's the video link in here, okay? Now, I already have this up just to show you. So what you're going to end up doing, and most of this code, at the very end where he does the callbacks, actually there is an error, but everything else actually runs. I love this example of call order pizza, call Oli. Anyway, it's a good one, okay? So you'll actually code this out, but what you'll end up doing, and this is what I say in here, the first 5 minutes is just an overview, right? And then you'll start. Oh, actually, this is what I was talking about here. So what you'll end up doing is in the HTML and the script tag is comment out the script tag that we have. Hold on, let me find that. Here we go. So just comment this out, command / and then put another script tag in there. You don't even have to hit defer here. Just give it the color-code.js, okay? And then what will happen is that, of course, our carbon footprint doesn't work here any longer. Why didn't my Chrome come up? Is that because I'm looking at it on the screen? Okay. So that's what you need to add here, okay? So just comment that out. Oh, actually it should be color-code. I'll do that. In the first 5 minutes, he'll just give an overview, okay? And then code along to the end, and then you'll commit with async JavaScript and callbacks, because we've done async and we've done callbacks, but again, we're bringing it back around to give us, you know, like, oh yeah, let's touch on this again. Okay, and then this will be worth 60 points, this code that you're writing. Again, some of it towards the end on the last example doesn't run, but everything else should. Okay, so once you do that, then review the code you wrote, right, that you just wrote, right, and review the code in the carbon footprint. And then find examples of asynchronous code. There are several. It might surprise you, but there are several, right? And then in your reply, tell us what code you found. And you can, and in this case, I actually want you to use something I don't think we've used, but I'm going to come down here. And what this does is it opens up the HTML, and you just do pre, right? So then you do, you know, your copy and paste your code that you found. I'm just giving you hello world. Okay. So what you would do is in here, and if I go back to see what this is, this looks more like code, okay? So what you want to do, and I'm going to drop this for a minute, right, is what you want to do is the code that you found that is the example of async, right? And then what makes this code async? So tell us that. So first choose it, tell us what makes it, right? And then each student needs a unique code example here. There are enough of them, believe me, okay? And then reply to one student and give them feedback or extend the conversation. Like if you don't think it is, be kind, right? And say, hey, I don't think it is, and here's why. So your post is 20 points, your reply is 20 points. Do reply to somebody who doesn't have one, okay? All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go do the video. I have the instruction for the next one. We'll end up using a little more of his code, of color code, Oh, I was back there somewhere. Okay. We'll use two of his videos, and I'll cover those and how we're going to do those, because then we'll have a code challenge based on, and for his, by the way, just give you the heads up, for his code, first he's going to cover promises, and then we'll cover async and await. These are the design patterns for asynchronous code. He's going to end up using a weather service. So in this case, we could have looked at the API that we'll use for open weather, but we're not going to, because we'll use that in our app. And just in this case, you get more exposure to doing API calls, which is wonderful. It's really what we're here for, is just giving more examples. And then what I will do is take that last async await example, and I'll give you a code challenge to actually customize that for our local Fresno Central Valley, or wherever you may be. Okay, so that's where we're heading. That's what we're doing this week. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon.